Hello, this is Pastor Josh Grimes from Open Bible East, another Tidbit Tuesday. We're in the fall season. I like the fall because the leaves are changing. The heat is supposed to dissipate, but you know how that's going. It's gotten a little warm. But the fall season brings a lot of things with it. The kids are going back in school. Some of our programming is getting back online. We're getting things all geared up for the school season in the church. Most of our churches are starting small groups back up, and a lot of things are in the works. I want to encourage you, pastors. One of the things that we did several years ago at one of our conferences is we made a vow together to make sure that by 2025, that every one of our churches would have an established discipleship plan that is working and in place. And when all this new stuff's happening in this season, kids back to school, our small groups getting back together and gearing up for the holidays and so forth, I just want to remind you to ask yourself this question. If I came to your church on Sunday and I gave my heart to Jesus Christ for the very first time, what's next? Now, I know most of us are good about, hey, let's get them a Bible, let's get them some information to understand the decision they made. That's important, but my question is actually bigger than that. If I get saved on Sunday, what takes me from just receiving Jesus Christ to whether it's a year or 2 years, 3 time frames I'm not concerned about, but what gets me from that all the way to, hey, now I'm leading ministries, I am now discipling people myself, and so on and so forth. How do we get from there to there? Now, we do have people that are self-starters, self-pushers. They get in and they'll bug you to death to make sure they get what's needed to be able to get to that point. But most people aren't that way. Most people are like, hey, what track do I run on? What's my next step? And we need to be clear on that, not just for people who get saved, but what about if somebody comes to your church? They've been a part of a mainline church for a long time. They come to your church. They love it. They want to be a part. Pastor, I want to take membership. We get them through a membership class to understand what it means to be a member. But how do we truly know that those people are discipled to the point of knowing who they are in Christ, growing in that, and then getting involved in ministry itself? Here at Oak Bible East, we put together this document that we gave out at conference. We've also sent it to you. It's available. I will make a link to it. It's on our website as well. And it's Making a Church Discipleship Plan. And in there are 3 fundamental points on what does a discipleship plan look like in my church. We try to simplify it. First of all, know. You need to know who you are in Christ. People need to understand who they are. We can't take for granted that they're going to know that just because they gave their heart to Jesus. Now, there's many things that you can use. The Alpha, there's some good in-stay stuff. There's the We Believe. There's a lot of great resources out there. And it's really not as important on what you use, but just making sure that there's a process that these people need to know who they are in Christ. Secondly, is grow. They need to grow in that. They need to grow as a believer. They need to grow in, and hey, what are they called to do? I don't believe anybody's a pew warmer. I don't believe anybody should just sit around and pay their tithe and give. I believe everybody needs to be involved, lightening the load, lifting the burden. So these people need to understand, not just know who they are in Christ. Now they need to grow in that. What's my calling? What's my giftings? Where can I lend my talents? What process do we have in our church for them to understand where they fit? It's more important than just being on the bus. They need to be on the right seat on that bus. And then lastly, we use the word go. Go, go. How are these people getting involved in starting ministries, helping to run ministries? How are they doing ministry inside and outside of the church? It's that activation part. Are we activating somebody to be a part of ministry? I mean, listen, pastors, we all have people who've been a part of our church for 50 years and they still just sit around and do nothing. We might not ever get them to. But I do believe that if we have an established, clear-cut plan for someone to enter into knowing who they are, growing in their calling and giftings, and then the activation of we're going to release you to go and do this and do that, whatever that might be. If we have a plan like that, we're more likely to get people from the pew into ministry and doing the ministry. Pastors, I know all of us have said this. Whew, man, it's too much. I'm doing too much. I carry too much responsibility. Well, it's always going to be that way unless we raise up a team of people that can help lighten the load and lift the burden. And that's on us. I remember early in my ministry saying, God, I need more leaders. I need more leaders. God, please send me the right people. And the Lord said this to me. I'll never forget. He said this, whose fault's that? And I thought, what do you mean whose fault's that? Listen, leadership don't fall out of trees. We've got to develop leaders. So what I found is, man, we're getting a lot of people saved and we're getting a lot of people into the church and we're getting more members. But what I recognize is we're not really making disciples. And it wasn't until we had an intentional discipleship process that got them from, the altar to the pew, but then to the pulpit, to the ministry that they're called to do. Not all of them are going to be pastors, and not all are going to be evangelists. Not all of them are going to be youth pastors or associate pastors or men's leaders or women's leaders, but we all have a part to play, and we need a process to get them to that place. I'd encourage you, make sure you get a hold of that and get that plan established. I want to see your church grow and thrive, not because you're working harder, but because you have a team of people working alongside you. I love you, Pastor. I know this is Tidbit is more than a tidbit, a little longer than usual, but I just want you to know I appreciate you. God bless.